Mrs. Thomas.
Ms. Telford, on February 13th, the Globe and Mail reported that in 2019, a CSIS briefing to the Prime Minister's office and the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, who of course is you, warned about the connection that the former Liberal MPP from Markham Unionville had to the Beijing consular. The nation's spy agency, CSIS, told the Prime Minister's office and you that the MPP should be, quote, on your radar, and that, quote, someone should reach out to Mary Ng to be extra careful, end quote. As he was her campaign co-chair, of course, in 2017 and was lined up to do the same job in 2019, did the Prime Minister's office advise the current Minister of Trade to distance herself from the former Liberal MPP from Markham Unionville?
So a couple of things on that. I believe the Minister has already spoken to the fact that the individual you're talking about was not a co-chair of her campaigns. Two, I can't get into, as I've said before, I can't get into the specifics of what you're describing as to whether it did or did not happen, whether we were or weren't briefed on it. But what I can, just to take a quick step back and try to give you a little more than that, is
it's okay.
Memos, though, usually don't make those recommendations. So that might be helpful for you to know.
Just for clarity, he was in fact her campaign co-chair in 2017, so you cannot deny that. And was lined up for 2019, but then promptly dropped within a matter of time of this report being released. So that's just an interesting fact for the public to consider. I would also remind you, Ms. Telford, that you do have the ability to talk about the extent and the timing of briefings. And the reason I say that is actually because intelligence and security expert Wesley Wark, who served for 2 terms in the Prime Minister's advisory with regards to intelligence and security, has said so. So if he says that you can provide those details, I'll take his word over yours. So let's just start on that platform, shall we?
No. I'm going to pause your time.
That's great.
I'm not sure what's happening here. And I feel like we've been doing a really good job. I was actually saying that because the line of questioning's been so fruitful that perhaps we should try to get in a little bit of extra time past 2 o'clock just to make sure that we do get the information that we are requesting. As I said at the top of the meeting, as I have repeated, this is not a courtroom. It's a Procedure and House Affairs Committee where members of Parliament sit and we do important work. Comments are made through the chair. And Mrs. Thomas, as someone who has chaired committees very well, you know very well the important work we do as chairs. So I will ask you that comments be made through the chair. The floor is back yours.
Through the chair, did anybody from the Prime Minister's office or the Liberal Party headquarters relay any information to the current Minister of Trade regarding CSIS warnings about the former Liberal MPP from Markham Unionville?
So, Madam Chair, I would encourage the members, if they have questions on the Minister Ng and her local campaigns, to raise them with her. I do believe she's on the public record, though, already on these questions. And I'm not sure things were laid out the way I understand them by the member in terms of those experiences. And the thing I was starting to try to say earlier that I think might be useful for the member to know is that recommendations don't tend to come to us saying you should go and do the threat reduction measure if there's ever one that's recommended. And so that's just something to consider in terms of how you are presenting, or sorry, Madam Chair, how the member is presenting certain things as facts that are certainly not the way that I have experienced things.
Madam Chair, I wonder if if Ms. Telford considered the Minister of Small Business a close friend.
Madam Chair, yes, I do.
So I'm wondering then why the individual testifying would not inform Ms. Ng about the troubling information that CSIS provided.
Madam Speaker, I would take you and the members back to what I said in the opening statement. Even what we share between other cleared individuals within government is something that we have to be incredibly sensitive and careful about. And threat reduction measures, if they are deemed as something that are necessary, is something that security officials do, not political staff.
In June 2017, at Ms. Telford's request, the National Security Advisor prepared a document entitled, quote, Memorandum to the Prime Minister. And a draft of this memo was viewed by Global News, and it states that Beijing agents were assisting Canadian candidates running for political offices. I'm wondering what prompted Ms. Telford to request this memo.
So as I said in my opening statement, I ask a lot of questions in a lot of meetings, and sometimes my name also gets attached to things, even when it's not coming directly with me, I have learned over time. But what I would just say, Madam Speaker, while I can't speak to the specifics of this memo for the reasons I've said previously, my understanding through the reporting is that this was an unsigned memo, and it's particularly strange and not my experience to receive unsigned memos in PMO.
So I'm wondering then, through you, Chair, did the Prime Minister receive the memo? It was requested.
Madam Chair, my previous answer stands for that question as well.
The previous answer was that the Prime Minister receives and reads everything.
I don't even know what's happening. We're doing so good. So we set a timer. The timer beeps at the end of a round. I've shown leniency that we can get you an answer beyond that time, and then we continue. I can ask to see if that timer needs to be louder, but it's been working so far, so I feel like we're in a good spot. Mr. Turnbull, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks to Ms. Telford for being here today. We've had lots of good testimony at